Bobby Lee Claremont and the Criminal Element by Jeannie Mobley. May 28, 1923, Carbondale, Illinois, 12:02 a.m. The lurch of the train woke me from sleep. At first I thought we must be coming into the station at Anna, but then I realized the train was not slowing to a stop, but starting up again. I hadn't meant to sleep at all, but had apparently missed the stop at Anna entirely. Still, it didn't matter, as I had most of an hour till Carbondale. I went to the lavatory. When I stepped out again, the porter smiled at me. "Were you able to take care of your business in Carbondale, sir?" I stared at him. "My business?" "You were asking about Carbondale earlier. I hope you found what you needed there." "But we haven't gotten there yet, have we?" "Why, yes, sir. That was Carbondale back yonder where we just pulled out." "Was it?" I felt my heart sinking down into my toes. "When is the next big stop?" "Big stop, sir?" "Where are there where there are connecting lines and more than just a train station." "I can't say as how we have another stop like that until Chicago. Besides, it's past midnight. Things'll be pretty shut up tight most places till we get on to Champaign round about 4 o'clock. There's usually coffee and pastry ladies on the platform there. After that, it's just a couple hours on to Chicago. Was there something specific you were needing, sir?" "I don't need anything," I said. I turned back toward my seat and surveyed the compartment. Sergeant Hayworth was asleep. Nanette had removed her hat and veil and cushioned her head against her bag to sleep. I could not see the baby, so I assumed he was asleep in his basket. And Kelly, with his back to me, was reclining in the seat opposite her. Bugeaud and Malcolm, however, were also were. "Do you know where those two gentlemen have gone?" I asked the porter, pointing to their seats. "Gentlemen who can't sleep often go to the smoking lounge," he said. I thanked him and went looking for them. I passed through the sleeping train, the aisles dark and the bunks curtained off in the Pullman sleeper cars. I found both Bugeaud and Malcolm in the smoking lounge. Bugeaud was at a table with 3 other men playing poker. Malcolm stood watch behind him. A large pile of money was in the middle of the table, and 3 more piles sat in front of the 3 other men, but not in front of Bugeaud. Bugeaud had taken off his jacket and hung it over the back of the chair, and large rings of sweat showed at his armpits. All the signs were there. He was getting fleeced. The big roll of cash he'd flashed me was most likely gone, just like the profits of the Cajun Queen, and that made me mad as a cat. "What do you think you're doing?" I shouted. The men at the table all flinched, then glared at Bugeaud once they figured out I was with him. Bugeaud jerked his head toward the door and growled, "Take care of him." And just like that, Malcolm had me by the shoulder and was pushing me back the way I'd come, into the observation car beyond. "But it ain't right," I protested. I wanted to say more to Bugeaud, but that's all I could manage before Malcolm had me out of earshot. He pushed me down into a seat, towering over me in case I tried to bolt. "Why you let him gamble?" I shouted at Malcolm. "Bugeaud's gambling got Jimmy killed." He said nothing, his face expressionless as stone, his body telling me how close I was to getting flattened. After a few minutes of silence, Bugeaud came through from the next car, his face red and glossed with sweat. "Nom de Dieu, you rotten brat! What do you mean, barging in on a big lame like that? I could have lost a bundle because of you." "You already lost a bundle, didn't you? And what you didn't lose you spent on expensive jewelry you don't need." "What are you talking about?" "That's what got Jimmy killed, when he couldn't pay the Northside Gang for the booze he'd bought." Bugeaud's eyes went wide and he jerked back from me in surprise. "The Northside Gang?" He shook his head and a small, humorless smile tugged at the corner of his lips. I knew he had good connections. I had no idea they were that good. Jimmy played his cards close to the chest. He shook his head again and muttered, "You are a fool, Jimmy, a brilliant fool." "You must have known," I said. "Like I've told you before, kid, there are some questions you don't ask." Jimmy said to leave it to him, and I wasn't sticking my finger under the bark of any tree that involved bootleg from Chicago. "But surely you suspected Brian Kelly when he showed up demanding payment," I persisted. A guilty expression flickered across Bugeaud's face, but then he remembered he'd been reading me the riot act. "Look, kid, whoever Jimmy knew, he'd known them long before he met me. It was cutting deals with the likes of the North Side Gang that got him killed, and that ain't none of your business." I rose to my feet, but Malcolm pushed me back down into the chair. That's what you were doing that night, wasn't it? I demanded. You'd gambled away the profits so Jimmy couldn't pay. So when Kelly came down in person to collect, you tried to make money the only way you knew how. But you lost and Jimmy took the fall. I was trying to win back the money to bail Jimmy out, Bugeaud said. Jimmy was a good partner and a good man. I didn't want him to get hurt. That's why you got to help Mrs. O'Halloran, Mr. Bugeaud. If she doesn't get the insurance money and can't pay Mr. Kelly, he might hurt her, kill her even. You can't let that happen. When the debt was yours and not Jimmy's, it's bad enough you got him killed. Saying things like that could get you killed, boy. You're to say Jimmy O'Halloran's death was an accident, and I don't expect to hear anything else about it out of your mouth. I thought I'd been clear on this point. But Nanette is innocent, I said. Don't kid yourself. Everyone on this train has an angle, Bobby Lee. Everyone is looking to profit one way or another, yourself included. You can't let a widow and a child pay for your mistake. It's bad enough what happened to Jimmy, but... Maudit enfant! Stay out of it. Keep your mouth shut and collect your money, you hear? Nan's a swell kid, and it's tough luck for all of us. But they'll kill me if they don't get that money. Nan will get by fine. Everybody loves her. Do you know what it's like to get people to trust an old Cajun off to buy you? Do you see folks stumbling over themselves to help me out? It's like you said, kid. Chaque chien a ses coins. There it was again. Every dog has to carry his own blade. And Bugeaud was a dog if there ever was one. But, now Malcolm will see you back to your seat. And if you interfere again, I'll have him see to it that you won't be able to interview by the time we get to Chicago. N'est-ce pas? Malcolm grabbed a fistful of the back of my shirt and hoisted me to my feet. With little pushes every few steps, he started me back from car to car. When we got to the empty dining car, I spoke. What about you, Malcolm? You said Miss Nettie was blameless. Are you going to let her get killed now that you know the truth? What truth is that? Malcolm said. He still had a firm grip on my shirt, but he had stopped walking, which gave me some hope that he would listen. I heard Kelly on the phone in Memphis. He killed Jimmy, and I think he would kill again if he had to get the money. Malcolm's eyebrows rose. You heard him say he killed Jimmy. Not exactly, I admitted, but it's the only explanation. Malcolm let go of my shirt. What exactly did you hear, son? I repeated the phone conversation as best I could remember it. So you didn't actually hear him say he meant to harm Mrs. O'Halloran? Well, not in those exact words, but that's what he meant. Malcolm gave me another little push and we started walking again. You'd best follow Mr. Bugeaud's advice and just stay out of it, Bobby Lee. You're only making things more dangerous by interfering. You're making people nervous, and when people get nervous, accidents happen. But someone's got to help Nanette, I said. I thought you were her friend. I am. But Mr. Bugeaud is my boss, and this is business. Now get back to where you belong, he said, giving me one last little push but not following. Gone. He was doing me the favor of letting me return the rest of the way on my own. It was the only favor he would be doing me. I straightened my shirt and my shoulders, and with one last reproachful look I hoped would at least make him feel guilty, I turned and walked away.